Hi, welcome to Elijah Fire. And this is my second video, and I'm sharing today about a vision I had on Pentecost Sunday, and this is 2022, so it was June 5th. I had a group of people over to our house, and I called it my upper room, and we just had worship and prayer. And I was taken up into a vision this day. I was in my sweats and my slippers, and I literally was taken up, and I saw Jesus, and I ran to him. And he took me, I hugged him, and he began to twirl me, and we danced, and we danced. And while he was twirling me, my clothes turned into a beautiful white wedding dress. And he continued to twirl me, and I laughed with so much joy. And he took me to the shore, and we walked and danced, and he twirled me, and I laughed, and I had so much fun. He then pointed to a beautiful white lighthouse, and he said, I want you to go and light the lamp, light the light. And so I climbed up this winding staircase up to the top, and it wasn't a light, it actually was a flame. And so what I did was I began to pour like gallons of oil onto this flame, and it lit. It was so bright. And my first thought was, where did I get this oil? And when I asked Jesus, where does this oil come from? And he said, it came from the dance with me. And my first thought was, it can't be that easy. I had so much fun, and when Jesus smiled, I knew that it wasn't by all my striving, my fasting, my praying. I just assumed it would be all these disciplines, and the disciplines are so good. But it was just abiding in him. It was just abiding and being with him that produced all that oil that kept that flame going. And so we stood at the top of the rail of the lighthouse, and he asked me, what do you see? And I looked out in the ocean. I saw this beautiful white fishing boat, and I'd seen it before. It's the Hope boat. It's a fishing boat that has the words hope on the back. And I saw it in a distance, and I began to see a storm coming. Like I heard the abundance of rain, and I saw this storm, and the waves got rough, and this huge wave came, and the boat caught the wave, and it began to come in. And my first thought was, it's not coming into the harbor. It is not going to make it to the harbor. And the next thing you know, the boat came into the shore, and I was going to run back down the stairs, but the Lord just, next thing I know, I was there. I was standing in front of that boat. There were several people that came off the boat that I did not know. And there was this tall Asian man that came off the boat, and I went to go shake his hand, and I asked him his name, and he gave me many names. He was a man with many names. And I didn't quite understand that, but the Lord said to prophesy to him. And two things I prophesied out of my mouth came: wage war with the prophetic words and the promises God has given you. This is an act of spiritual warfare. And then the second one, I spoke to him. I saw him and many people standing, looking at the front door through these windows and looking through the front door. And I told him, I told them, God is coming through the back door. He's not coming through the front door. He's coming a different way. He's coming through the back door. And then immediately I was taken out of this vision. And I wrote it down. I never said anything really to anybody about it until this last weekend. I was in Pasadena with a group. It's called Catch the Wave Global. I'm in my third year at Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. And Chad and Julia Denman, who it's called Catch the Wave Global, and they are praying and interceding for California. And so I've been a part of this, and we met up at a house in Pasadena. And I believe it was Lou Engle's old house. And so I love to learn the history, and we came there for a worship night. And I was not going to come, but I felt like the Lord called me to come. And it's about a 2-hour drive for me. So I got in my car and I drove down, and I knew I was supposed to be there. and not knowing, just being around others and worshiping God and just praying for anyone who needs prayer. I knew that's what I was called there for. So when I was there and we were in worship, the band was in a garage and we were standing on the driveway. And as this band began to play and worship Jesus, I saw he was the keyboardist, and he looked like the guy from the boat that came out, that came up on the shore. And the Lord reminded me of this vision. I hadn't thought about it. It happened like 2 months ago. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to share this vision. And I began to ask the Lord, what does coming through the back door mean? And the Lord said, look in the garage. And as I looked in the garage, there was a door to the right-hand side. He said, that's the back door. I'm coming through garages and back doors. And all of a sudden I had this revelation while I was sharing with a friend of mine, and Chad, I didn't realize he was behind me. He said, you need to release this word. So of course I was nervous. And so I did. At the end of our worship night, I released that word, not knowing that we know in part, we see in part, and God brings us together, and then he reveals a bigger picture, and that's what happened that night. It was so beautiful. As I shared the portion of the word of the boat coming on shore and the man with many names, I realized that we began to pray into this, that God is coming. He is here. He is meeting us in neighborhoods, around tables, in garages, in the streets. And so we prayed into that. And I did not realize Mondo, who was the one that led this whole group. He is starting, I believe it's part of a vision that they're raising up a group that they will have 10 stadiums filled in California, in 10 different regions in California, and getting ready for the harvest. And the name of that was Hope Boot Camp. So there was so many connections, and I just, God is so good. He is so good. And so my word to you today is he's the God of hope, and hope is coming. Hope is here. And God has given each of us a part to play, and we just need to walk in it. We need to be obedient. For me, just being obedient to showing up, and especially showing up to the places that God has called me to pray. There's something about standing on the beach where I am to pray and intercede, or standing in front of a building, or, I do much of my prayer in I call my upper room, my birthing room, my, my room of travail. But God has called us to these places, and he is so good. And he wants to speak to each and every one of us. It's not just me. I'm like a nobody. God is speaking to us. And my prayer is that open your word. Begin to read the word. He is speaking through his word. He is speaking, and he's calling us into our destinies. And he wants us to be healthy and whole. And so my prayer is, if any of you are feeling sick, I just release God's peace, God's healing over each and every one of you, that you will walk in the destiny that God has called you. You would be full of hope. You would be full of joy. You would be full of peace. And he is that good. I want to thank you, and have a wonderful day.